Good morning, everybody. This is Eddie J on Crypto. Hope you're having a great day. So, today starts the FOMC meeting, which should not be a big deal, right? They're going to meet today, and then Wednesday they'll say, hey, here's a 25 basis point move. That's what we're expecting. It's not going to go to zero. It's just not, okay? So, all those people that are way out there, that's not going to happen. Do I think a 50 basis point move, could happen? It's possible. Doubtful. I think they've kind of read into the market, hey, we're going to most likely do a 25 basis point move. So I think that's what's going to happen, which means that it should be basically a non-event, right? That's okay. All the inflation indicators, all that good stuff, is looking really good. So to do 50 would totally crush the markets. That would send everybody reeling. That's not what they want. So that's what I'm expecting is 25 basis point move when it's announced on Wednesday. Something else that we should be paying attention to. Big tech giants are actually reporting their earnings this week. Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta. So those are big things that we should be paying attention to. And the reason why we should be paying attention to that is very simple. All of those layoffs, and now we're going to hear about the earnings. And more importantly, we'll hear about their forecasts. One of the reasons why I'm paying attention is because tech is tied to crypto for some strange, odd-ass reason. There's also another odd thing. Stripe, who's thinking about going public, I don't know why they keep calling it a Web3 company. I don't understand. I don't get it. They do some work, but I think they use a third party for their crypto. I have to do a little bit more digging, but I'm not seeing them as a Web3 company. I see them as a fintech. I don't see them as Web3. But that's just me. Mike Novogratz says, hey, listen, if we get retail investors getting involved again in crypto, right? It means they're adopting it. It means they've done their research. It means a lot of things. But more importantly, it's going to drive institutional investors to get into the market. And that's what he thinks needs to happen for everything else to kick in. And that's when you would see big growth. I kind of agree with that. Right. It's not to say that you don't have institutional investors that are involved now, like Galaxy Digital, which is where he's the CEO, like MicroStrategy. But what I'm looking for, what he's saying is, listen, there are big time institutional investors that are sitting on the sidelines. We're not talking about BlackRock. They were already involved. We're not talking about Goldman Sachs, already involved. We're not talking about a lot of these companies that are already involved. But it's a very, very small group of institutional investors that are actually already involved. You have all of the other ones that he's talking about, of which there are many, many, representing trillions of dollars. That is what we're waiting for, that level of participation. When you reach that level of participation, it does make banks stop and wonder, what the heck? Where do we live? How do we survive going forward? Because that is going to not introduce because it's already here, but that will actually start to become the new financial network as opposed to the current financial system, right? So those are things that make me stop and look at what are the projects doing in crypto, who's adopting them, how are they being leveraged, what's the push behind them, what's the usefulness, because at some point, nowhere near in the future, but at some point in the future, you're going to start to see consolidation and shakeout of some of these coins. Why? Because they just don't have enough use cases. Some will rise to the top. Now, the ones that are at the top might not remain at the top. Again, things to think about. So, now Amazon, I found this article in CoinDesk. Great place. So I found the article in CoinDesk, and it made me stop and think. It made me go, whoa. So if Amazon, one of the world's largest companies, they have more reach than anything out there, right? If they actually get into Web3 and NFTs, doesn't that force regulators around the world to clarify their rules and regulations around digital assets? Huh. Wow. I hadn't thought about it from that kind of compliance perspective. But yeah, because Amazon is global. Amazon has huge reach. So if Amazon does something, different jurisdictions are going to have to say, hey, here's what you're going to have to do to be legal. Here's what you're going to have to do to not be seen as, moving securities. Right? So there are a lot of things that, that's going to usher in and force the hand of. Dare I say, a move like that could actually have more of an impact than even the Ripple case with the, dumbass SEC. Well, no, they're not dumb, but they really upset me. Now, something I found interesting. Ripple was tapped by Montenegro. Now, Montenegro, tiny little country, they're not a part of the EU. A lot of people think they are. They're not. Although they use the euro within the country, they are not a part of the EU officially, which means that the euro is not officially, legal tender, but the government treats it like it. The people treat it like it, but there are formalities that they have to follow, and that's the reason why. But they tapped Ripple to help them create a stable coin. Now, I want you to look at this a little bit differently. I didn't say CBDC, I said stable coin. Now, it could be a CBDC, but the news was stable coin. Now, the question I have is, if you're developing a stable coin, what blockchain are you going to use to do so? Could it be Ripple? Now, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be XRP, right? Could be. I'm thinking most likely it would be. But it doesn't have to be. And that's something I'm looking at and I'm going, wow, that could be interesting. That could be a really interesting move. Something else that is an interesting move is the digital yuan. The digital yuan has been introduced to another 17 provinces. And I pay attention to that because I'm wondering if the digital yuan and the Chinese company that has a new platform that will enable cross-border operations of CBDCs, I'm wondering how all that would affect the rest of the BRICS nations, including Saudi Arabia and UAE filing to become registered members of that little block. So I'm finding things that are here and now, affecting here and now, and going to affect you in the future. There's one point that I also wanted to bring up. I told you Tezos and Polygon had news and it bumped them up. Polygon hit really close to $1.20 over the weekend. Yesterday, as a matter of fact. Tezos was up at like $1.17 and change. And then they soon receded, giving back some of those gains. That's okay, because they still achieved new lows. They went higher and set new lows. And I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, wow, those are perfect examples for what I was telling you the other day, which is news comes and then there's a dip, and then news comes and then there's a dip, and then news comes. This is the perfect example. Do your homework, do your research, and look at, are there any projects that you're interested in that are going to do the same thing, that could do the same thing? So what did I do? Yeah, I'm in on these little dips. Why? Because I'm expecting things to go up again. Duh. But there's no guarantee, but I'm not going to buy at the height of those gains. I do have a DCA strategy for Polygon. I do not have one for Tezos. Kind of just buy it when I feel like it. Right? But Polygon is in my dollar cost averaging schedule. Part of that strategy where I purchase every so often. Anyway, this is Eddie J on crypto. I hope you have a good one. If you're waiting for me to go through the numbers, now you can tune into the longer video. Let's go take a look at those numbers now. And we're not going to start here. We're going to start over here. All right. So the fear and greed index right now, we're deeply into greed. Do you see this? We're deeply into greed right now at 61. That's pretty good news. Things are starting to move in the right direction is what I'm seeing. All right. When I look at trading view, I told you I have a line. If you look at this top blue line right here, That's my limit, and it's at 23,417. Now we've bumped up past that a little bit. We sustained a little bit, but very little. I'm not buying into anything until I see Bitcoin maintain above 23,417. That's my next step. Now we've hit it, we've surpassed it a few times. We've got to be able to stay there. Now, if you look at how everything's going, that could very much happen, right? Sustained over here, went up, came down a little bit, then jumped up, came across, jumped up a little bit, maintained, jumping up a little bit, coming back down. I'm suspecting that there'll be another jump up a little bit. And maybe that's when we actually hit 23,417 and sustain lateral movement above that number. And then again, like I said, the next number would be 25,210. All right. So if I'm looking across the board right now, you should be paying attention to Ethereum not really going above, that gain that Bitcoin has seen. They move at different ways. They kind of move in lockstep, but not exactly in lockstep. So to me, yeah, that's a good number to buy Ethereum at. I could do that. Bitcoin 2308, 2380. Could it hit 22,000 again? Yeah, sure, but does that change really stop me from buying some more Bitcoin? Not really. Not at all. That's not going to stop me. So I'm looking at everything right now, and I look at everything in terms of what was its all-time high, right? That's what I'm looking at. What was the all-time high of these coins? That's what I pay attention to. So we're nowhere near the all-time high. So whatever I buy at, if I miss out on a couple of pennies here, a couple of pennies there, okay, cool, fine. That's fine. But I have my dollar cost averaging strategy in place, and that's what I buy. I just keep going, because over the years, on average, it'll wind up going up for me. That's what it's been doing. That's what I'm expecting it to keep doing. I'm smart about certain moves, right? So I have my dollar cost averaging, strategy, but then I also have dry powder ready to rock and roll when I get a feeling about something. So I had a feeling about, Polygon the other day, came back and told you about Tezos. When I told you about Tezos, it was a little bit before you actually saw Tezos rise. See what I mean? News hits, but you also have to think about news actually getting out there in full force. So if you're an early bird and you catch that news, you might be able to make a move to catch the pop before it happens, and then to get out after. Right? That's what makes day trading hard, but at least you know when you could possibly get in. You can start to see those little things that'll help you get in there. If you want to see it in the list, here's the list. Again, Polygon back down to $1.11. It was at $1.19, a hair close to $1.20. This is what I mean. Pay attention. Do your own research. Again, I'm looking at Doge and I'm kind of like, yeah, if your big name that claim to fame is Elon eating a freaking Happy Meal, that's not a good place to be. It's just not. Anyway, this is Eddie J on crypto. I hope the information I give you is helpful. If you have questions, suggestions, hit me up. Have a good one. Bye-bye.